Today, Justice Herbert Lord handed down his decision in the bail application brought before the Supreme Court in the manslaughter by negligence case of Jasmine Hartin, charged for the shooting death of Superintendent Henry Jamot. After written and verbal submissions were made by the prosecution and the defense attorney, the judge ruled that there is not an unacceptable risk with granting bail to the accused.
The judge has granted bail.
For 2.5 hours this morning and then briefly this afternoon, submissions were presented, followed by a wrap-up by the judge, who will deliver his ruling in writing at a later date. During today's hearing, Crown Counsel Shanice Lovell presented details as to why the DPP's office is objecting to bail. From the onset, their objection was on the grounds that Hartin was considered a flight risk.
What submissions will you be making to the judge?
It's in relation to her flight risk status, but
Do you consider her
yes,
a serious flight risk?
yes, we do.
It was a very long day with long arguments, but in the end the judge felt that there was not an unacceptable risk of flight once the appropriate conditions could be put in place.
There were various aspects considered in the decision, including the seriousness of the offense and the severity of punishment if the accused is convicted. Also taken into account were Hartin's connection to Belize, the time limit for investigation, among many others. Of note is that portions of Hartin's caution statement were read before the court today as Superintendent Henry Jamot's sister sat in on the session. Hartin said, quote, "He asked me to hand him the magazine so he can reload it. I tried to take out the magazine, which was stuck and the firearm discharged," unquote. Attorney Godfrey Smith also said that the senior cop had allowed his client to handle the firearm the previous week and that both the accused and the deceased were drinking leading up to the fatal shooting. Smith, in his presentation, shared 7 points, including a checklist used to counter the Crown's submission that Hartin is a flight risk.
The question of whether you grant bail or not includes a whole list of factors: previous convictions, character of the person, economic ties to the country, family ties, community ties. And so basically the judge carefully went down the entire list and concluded that there was not an unacceptable risk of flight.
Bail was issued in the sum of 30,000 Belize dollars with one surety of the same amount with 8 conditions. Aside from immediately surrendering her travel documents, IDs, social security card, Hartin was also placed on curfew, 7 p.m. to 6 a.m., and she will report to the police station on a daily basis between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m., but not in San Pedro, but San Ignacio, as News 5 confirmed with Attorney Smith.
I didn't make note of all of them, but bail was set in the sum of 30,000 Belize dollars plus a surety of the same, reportage to police station once per day. Request has to be made of the court if there is a wish to travel. Obviously, surrender of passport and all other documents and all forms of identification, and a number of other conditions. Curfew was one.
A copy of the restriction will be sent to the Immigration Director and the Commissioner of Police to be circulated to all formations and border entry points to ensure that Hartin adheres to the ruling of the court. Any breach will result in the immediate revocation of her bail. Just before 5 this evening, Hartin was released from prison.
Papers have to be signed, the order has to be finalized, and of course the bail, cash bail, and the surety has to be signed up. So we still have work to do to get that going.
Will that be completed by the end of today?
That is the hope, if you do not detain me much longer.
Duane, Moody for News 5.